What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. I want to thank my sponsor, Steel Supplements. Link and discount code down in the description. You also know I've got an affiliation now with Harlem Bling. Talked about it. Wearing my Cuban. So many compliments. I know that you guys get a piece of jewelry from them. You're not going to be disappointed. Lifetime pieces. Honestly. Make the investment in yourself. Get yourself something nice. Treat yourself. It's been a rough year. Well, been a rough couple of years for football gamers, but nevertheless, NCAA football is supposedly coming out in July, which is crazy to me because we haven't really seen anything from the game to be releasing in less than 6 months. But we do have a little bit more coming out from Matt Brown, and when I look at what EA is claiming, and when I think historically with how EA deals with hurdles in gaming, it's a little bit strange for me to see this. So essentially, what they're coming out now and saying is that they are going to have video game history made with this game because the way they're working the player names, likenesses, assets, all of these things. So obviously, when you look at Madden, you've got 32 teams, 53-man roster, practice squad, free agents. But when you talk about college football, you've got 130 programs, 85 scholarship players. You've got over 11,000 players that should be in the game. And EA is using this to kind of come out and say, well, listen, we're making history with all these players. And the reality is, I guess if you want to view it that way, you are. If you're going to tell me every single player is going to be represented. But the reality is, with EA, it's not just about representing the player, it's about actually replicating the player. So if you're sitting there and telling me, well, before, we used this randomized likeness to generate, so many generic players off a roster, but now we're not going to do that, and instead we have this partnership that's going to allow us, through one team, to bring in every single player. I'm not all that impressed because, listen, that's just data moving. You're just taking data from one company, extrapolating it, and putting it into your game. I don't really talk about sports betting on this channel, but I do bet just about every day. One of the things that I like to bet on, even though I don't follow, is college basketball. And the reason is because you can look at those over-unders and use some tools, some analytics that are very, very accurate in how they look at those games. And the reason for this is it's a college athlete versus a pro athlete. So to put that into a different perspective, you look at the championship games this weekend. You've got running backs, receivers, quarterbacks, where there's hundreds, thousands of hours of game film that someone can break down and analyze and look at true percentages, true traits, honest characteristics. When you look at college athletes, in a lot of cases, you don't have a fraction of that. You have kids coming out of high school that there's maybe in some cases very little prep work on. So the challenge EA Sports has is replicating NCAA football, not replicating a person's name, birthplace, team, and a picture of their face. The impossibility that they have is trying to replicate 11,000 players uniquely. Because I'll be honest with you, no one expects that. No one expects that in Madden. If you look at that from a fractional standpoint, I would maybe think, if we're being truly honest with ourselves, maybe they have a way to distinguish 80 players, 90 players in a game through traits, combinations of traits, skill sets. But again, this is EA Sports, in my opinion, trying to make it seem like they're doing something more than they are. We're making history putting 11,000 players in the game. Okay, maybe at face value you are, but what are you actually doing with those 11,000 players that's going to relate to a gamer? Not enough to have a trailer come out before you release this game in July, that's for sure. And if you've got a whole team that's been working on this, and that's the best that you're coming out with, that's the history that you're making, we're not supposed to be concerned? You know, when you guys watch the championship games this weekend, I want you to pay specific and close attention to the AWS advertisements, because they are all over. When you look at how AWS has changed the NFL, just a couple years ago, 2-point conversions were very, very uncommon, unless it was specific situations. Now, because of AWS, the percentages, they run all the time. They run in situations where, as a long-time NFL fan, you know, a 2-decade, 3-decade NFL fan, as long as I've lived my life, I've been an NFL fan, I scratch my head. Because it's so juxtaposed to what I used to see as a football fan. All of that data, if you recall, was supposed to go in to Madden. All of that information, which now is truly changing the game of football from a coaching perspective, was supposed to make players move different, feel different, make gameplay and coaching decisions unique, and none of that happened. None of that happened. They had a world of information, more than they could probably ever deal with, available to them, and they couldn't do anything with it. But now they're going to sit there and try the same exact rhetoric with this one-team partners. Because players can sign an agreement that gives EA permission to use their name, image, and likeness. And they're going to sit there and try to sell us this song that all of a sudden we're going to have 11,000 players replicated to the T. They're not going to know what probably 4,000 or 5,000 of those players actually do well. They're not going to have any way to distinguish those players. And the fact that they're sitting there almost selling their game on this just shows me we have had a decade-long drought of a licensed college football game. They've supposedly had a dedicated team outside of Madden. Remember, this was people specifically building this game, and the best thing they've got to prop themselves up on is 11,000 players. We've got the players in the game. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult year for a lot of us, because there's a lot of people that are banking on this game, saving football gaming, saving their YouTube channels, saving the community that's really rapidly tired of dealing with repetitive, broken gameplay with Madden. And you can look around the entire space and see that, from the biggest channels to the smallest channels. I understand. I respect that you guys still come to my channel, but many of you have given up on this game years ago. Right now, you're just probably coming here to listen to my voice and say, yeah, that's right. The reason so many of you come here is because I've been doing this for so long, and I've built a pretty strong base of fans. If you were starting out today and you had to build a channel from scratch, it's going to be near impossible. Not just because the scale of YouTube has dramatically changed, but because there's not that many people interested in a broken game. If you look at this any other way, you know, let's say we were selling a car, right? We have this very hyped car. Been working on this car forever, for years. And the car's broken. And for every 10 people that buy the car, maybe 2 people enjoy it. And the other 8 just think it's the biggest piece of junk they've ever had. They can't depend on it. It's not reliable. They don't trust it. What do you think the community based on that car is going to be? Well, one, it's going to be pretty negative, because you've got a bunch of people that feel like they've been taken advantage of and burnt as a customer. And yeah, you might have the outliers, the 1 or 2 people that come in and say, no, this is the best car I've ever, driven. But in reality, to those people, we don't know what they've driven before. If all you had was a bike to ride before, of course that's going to be the best car you've ever had. It's the only car you've ever had. And that's the exact position so many gamers are in now. They look at Madden as the best football game they've ever played, because to so many, and every year the number becomes higher, it's the only football game they've ever played. They don't know NFL Game Day. They don't know 2K5. They don't know Quarterback Club. They don't know competition in the marketplace. And when you don't have that, you can have a company put out whatever clunker, be it car, be it game, they want, and you're going to have people say this is the best thing ever. Because to them it is. But to us, it's not. And this game, NCAA football, is very much giving every telltale sign that it's going to be the same exact way. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you watching it. You know, I will be back. Because EA Sports is sitting here and selling you 11,000 players. There's no way I can't be back in the week with more commentary.